Good afternoon, everyone. Aaron here, Canadian Looney. How is everybody doing this afternoon? We're already in action on the House of Flora Commons. We're going to jump right over there. Good to see everybody this afternoon. Should be another wild one in the House of Commons. It usually is.
They voted her here today to represent her community. My question to her is this. 76% of seniors are having to support their families today because of this Liberal government's affordability crisis. They don't understand budgets. My colleague does. She comes from the banking sector. So I'd like to ask my colleague how she might be able to teach the Liberals how to balance a budget.
Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, all I hear from across the aisle is arrogance. No desire to actually work together for a better future for Canadians. Fiscal responsibility is important. It has long-term consequences. But they seem to be laughing and think that it is a joke. And on the topic of seniors, Mr. Speaker, there's a senior in my riding that shared the story with me. He said, Sandra, my father taught me to work hard and give it my all to achieve what I want in life. I gave it my all, and I am still struggling. And those are the consequences of failed policies of the Liberal government.
Way to go, Sandra.
Resuming debate, reprise le débat. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of AI and Digital Innovation.
Thank you very much, Mike Tremblay. Very much appreciated. That's very generous. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been following this conversation with a lot of interest, and I'm quite surprised by what we are hearing from members opposite, because they claim to know the economy, they claim to know fiscal prudence, they claim to know what investment is about. And as we heard in the question period yesterday, they don't seem to know what the private sector really is. So I suppose one of the things that perhaps I might share with my colleagues across the way is some fact. The fact is that Canada's economic position right now relative to the other G7 countries is the strongest. It is in the strongest position in the G7 right now in terms of economic growth. We have heard stats that are inconvenient for the opposition. The fact that Canada is now among the top nations for foreign direct investment in this country. They talk about investment leaving the country. The reality is that more and more and more people want to invest in Canada. Why? They want to invest in this country because the facts are clear. There is a stable government run by somebody who actually understands how the markets work, first of all. Second of all, they understand that Canadians are not just resilient, but they understand innovation. They understand what it takes to be able to deliver the goods. And as I am speaking, I will also be sharing time with the member from Poilievre, who will also, I am sure, have lots to add on this point. But the reality that we see right now, the facts on the ground are, when you look at Canada's position globally, we are the strongest economy, the strongest potential economy in the G7, the best economic position. You've heard the metrics already from my friend from King's Hands in terms of the debt-to-GDP ratio. The reality that the Conservatives refuse to accept is that Canada is actually well-positioned to deal with global uncertainty. When you look at economic instability south of the border, when you look at economic instability caused in Europe as a result of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, people are looking to Canada as an island of stability. They're looking to Canada as a place where workers are ready to roll up their sleeves and do great things, where innovators are building for the economy of the future. We are making transformational investments in digital, in AI, where the world needs us to be. And why Canada? Because Canada has proven itself to be a trusted partner, a reliable ally, and a place where our word matters. That matters to the world. It matters in trade, it matters in commerce, and it matters in business, where your word is your bond. People are looking to this country to say, we know we can place our investment dollars here. We know that we can place our interests here because Canadians know how to value those investments. They know how to build with those investments, and they know that they can trust that their investments will be safe and secure because the fiscal position of this country is in outstanding shape. Conservatives would like to be able to spin a narrative that Canada is broken. And we all saw how that worked in the last election. Canadians believe in Canada. The government believes in Canada. Liberals believe in Canada. And that is why Canadians returned us to lead this country. They didn't buy the Canada is broken mandate because they know that Canada is not broken. They know that Canada is the place when the world is in trouble that is going to lead. Canada is going to lead. And that is why Canadians put their confidence in us. Had they believed that narrative, the members opposite would have been sitting on this side. That's a reality. It's an unfortunate reality for them. It's a fortunate reality for Canadians because Canadians see a government that is leading with optimism and pragmatism. A government that is leading with fact. Now let's talk about some of the facts. They talk about failed policies. They think that providing dental care to thousands of Canadians, millions, 5 million Canadians, is a failed policy. They're saying to more than 16,500 residents of my riding that the fact that they can now access dental care, that's a failed policy. They're talking to tens of thousands of parents who have benefited from $10 a day childcare and saying that that's a failed policy. I wonder how many of their voters, Mr. Speaker, are taking advantage of those very same $10 a day care child spots. That shows, Mr. Speaker, that there is a need. The member opposite is yelling that there are 3,000 people on a wait list. That shows that there is demand for a government program that is clearly not a failed policy. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, they talk about caring. They talk about caring for Canadians. They talk about caring about young people in this country. They talk about their concern about prices of food. They voted against a school food program. They voted against a program that gave parents the ability to ensure that their kids, where necessary, would have food in their bellies. That's who these Conservatives are, Mr. Speaker. They are no longer the progressive Conservatives of the old that understood that you can match strong social policy and strong economic management. They have turned their back on economic management. We saw some of the largest deficits in Canadian history under the previous Conservative government, and they've turned their back on caring for Canadians. That is what this new right-wing Conservative opposition has become. And that is why Canadians have turned their back on them. So let's talk about the future, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about what Canadians are looking for. In a world where sovereignty matters, digital sovereignty is at the top of what we are investing in. And why are we investing in that sovereignty, Mr. Speaker? We are investing in that sovereignty because Canadians' data, the important information about Canadians, Canadian research, Canadian innovation needs to be protected from governments that may act not in the best interest of Canadians. And so when we are investing in sovereign cloud, when we are investing in compute capacity in this country, when we are investing in quantum in this country, we are investing in data centers to make sure that Canadians know that they can be protected in a world where technology and artificial intelligence is everywhere. What we are saying is that we are building for the future, not just for Canada, but for the world. We are saying to European partners, you can trust Canada, you can trust our rules, you can trust our guidelines, because we understand that innovation should not come at the cost of workers, that innovation should not come at the
We're investing in quantum.
Cost of values, that you can innovate and still treat people with dignity and respect.
Come on.
And that is the balance that we are trying to cast, that we are trying to set on this side of the House when it comes to investing in Canada. Because investments, as we all know, require all of us to think about the future for the long term. And while members opposite may be thinking about soundbite to soundbite, our government is thinking
We're investing in quantum.
generationally for what matters to Canadians and for the future of this country. And that's why the investments that we are making in ensuring that we are able to maximize our natural resources while also protecting our environment, while we are investing generationally in building homes for Canadians, something that they would know nothing about, while we are investing in the technologies of the future today, those investments matter to Canadians because they are creating the jobs of the future today. We are setting Canadians up for the jobs of the future by ensuring they have the money to train and retrain. So we're putting the money of the economy where our mouth is. We're not just saying that tax cuts are going to solve everything, but we did that. We have put more money into the pockets of Canadians by cutting taxes while also investing. So it proves, Mr. Speaker, that you can be thinking about and investing in the future while also making life more affordable today. That is what the premise of this government is. We are spending less and investing more. And for people that don't understand the difference, it's very clear. Families may spend.
Could you please explain to me the difference between spending more and investing? Oh my God. Like, this bum is so absurd.
Less at home on things like a Starbucks coffee so that they can invest in their RSPs. That's how families that run, at least certainly our family, when we're talking about prudence, that's how it works. That's how it works, Mr. Speaker. You take money that you don't need to spend on things for the day-to-day so you can put it into things that are going to deliver a return for you in the future. That's how families plan. That's how governments plan. That's how we are planning for the future of this country, Mr. Speaker. And the Conservatives may laugh. They may laugh because they think it is funny to think about the concept of managing our economy in a responsible way, making prudent investments that are going to be there for the future of Canadians. And that's okay, because they're not running this country, thankfully. We are. And the reason that we are in this position is because Canadians trusted the vision of the Prime Minister. They understood that pragmatism and thoughtfulness can be paired with compassion and resilience. And they understood that in the time that we are in, where we are facing the significant challenges to our economy from the United States, that strong stewardship and building a Canadian economy working together across jurisdictions in a way that is unprecedented was best handled by our government and best handled by our Prime Minister and by the members on this side of the House. So, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to this opposition motion being defeated, as it should be, as they were in the last election, so that we can continue the hard work and the important work of building Canada in a way that works for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for York Melville.
I really appreciated hearing this, the comments on sovereignty, so I would like the member, who I think is capable of doing this, to provide this House and Canadians with a definition of what this government means by Canada being a post-national state. Please define that.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, I appreciate the member opposite commenting on my capability. That's much, much appreciated. When we talk about what Canada is, Mr. Speaker, I think
this little arrogant sack of shit is now going to explain what a post-national state is. Let's hear him go. Poilievre is a moron, so let's see how many feet he can jam inside that big mouth.
it's very different from the Conservatives' vision of Canada, because the Conservatives talk about the Canada that was, not the Canada that could be. And on this side of the House, we talk about the Canada that could be, the Canada that can be and the Canada that will be. A Canada that is prosperous, that is dynamic, that looks at difference as a strength, that invests in the economy of the future, that takes the steps that are required to ensure that Canadians are trained for that doesn't turn their back on Canadians in their moment of need, that doesn't say that when you're in need, we're going to turn our back on you, good luck. We believe in investing in Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate my colleague for his speech and his focus. For someone who just had his birthday yesterday, and he must have stayed up very late. I found him very concentrated in spite of the noise in the chamber, so I congratulate him for that. Well, he's part of a government now that has cut revenue, well, around $80 billion, according to estimates, and a government that continues to invest $83 billion in the oil industry over 5 years, even though this has an important impact on climate change. The budget will be tabled with a deficit around $100 billion, if not more, and the government is boasting about its AAA rating. Can we expect Canada's rating to be maintained with such a track record from this Liberal government? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. In tough times, for families, and even at the government, it's important to make tough decisions. We need a government that's more effective, with clear priorities. Perhaps we can do less than in the past, but it's also important for us to maintain our fiscal financial position with banks and investors, and that's something that's very important for us. We'll see in the budget that will be tabled on November 4th how we're going to do this, and I hope that my colleague will support our budget because it will be here to protect our economy and even Canadians and Quebecers. Thank you. I have a point of order. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I waited for the dialogue to finish between my colleague from Drummond and the Liberal colleague. But throughout the question, while my colleague was asking his question, it was talking on both sides. There was no consideration given for the question being asked. The noise was really high. I would ask them if they want to talk to go outside. And they were yelling while my friend was asking his question. If they cannot conduct themselves properly, they should get out. Thank you. I'd like to remind all members that if they would like to have a discussion or across the aisle, I would invite them to go to the lobby or outside of the chamber while the debate continues in the House.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the honourable member from Vancouver Granville, and I'd like to wish him a happy belated birthday. He's looking pretty good for just 1 year shy of 50. I think the whole House would agree with that. But I really appreciated the fact, Mr. Speaker, that the Parliamentary Secretary, he acknowledged that the government is focused and working in terms of a budget on November 4th, that we are going to have to make some difficult choices to make sure we can protect Canada's fiscal position, but also differentiating from the Conservative view that the idea that the country is broken and that they were not highlighting the fact that Canada has the best debt to GDP ratio in the G7 and the lowest deficit. But my question to the honourable member is, does he find it a bit facetious that he's listened to the Conservative benches talk about deficits when the Conservatives actually proposed $106 billion of new spending in their platform just a few months ago? Does he find that just a little bit strange?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of AI and Digital Innovation.
I thank my friend for his question. Do I find it strange? No. When you have a leader of a party who has never had to live on anything but the taxpayer dollar, I think it's difficult to understand how an economy works, let alone how balancing the books work. So it's of no surprise to me, Mr. Speaker, that the degree to which that they would have made expenditures without considering how they were going to pay for them is entirely in line with a Conservative opposition that has never thought about the fiscal prudence and the fiscal direction of the country, but only about sort of populist slogans to try and win votes.
Resuming debate. The Honourable Member, Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate this opportunity to participate in this debate today.
Mr. Speaker, the member
and above
has made
all,
reference to mythical bail
underscore
legislation.
some facts
and we have
based
had a
in
Prime Minister
reality.
who's made a very strong
This is happening at the time.
The concern I have is the Conservatives like to talk tough on crime, but when it comes to actually passing legislation through, they have to be shamed in order to get it, even to go through second reading so it can go to a standing committee where the public and stakeholders can provide thoughts and feedback on it. I wonder if the member would be prepared, if the legislation does materialize, will he be prepared to then
I have to interrupt the member to allow the member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South in 20 seconds or less to respond.
The member for Winnipeg North just said if the legislation materializes, so even he doesn't know if it's real, Mr. Speaker. I would encourage him to leave this chamber for even an hour or two from time to time and look at what's happening on the streets here and realize that Canadians are calling for real action, and we are prepared to deliver it, even though the Liberal government is not.
The Prime Minister is breaking his promises to Canadians. He claimed that Canada would become an energy superpower, but refuses to put a pipeline on his list of nation-building projects. He promised the fastest-growing economy in the G7, yet he's delivered the fastest shrinking. He promised to create jobs, yet he's lost 86,000 jobs since becoming the Prime Minister. And to make matters worse, TC Energy is investing over $8 billion in an energy infrastructure project, not in Canada, but in the United States. President Trump has made it clear he wants to take jobs and investment away from Canada. So why is this Prime Minister so hell-bent on helping him?
You would think this parade of members of Parliament from Alberta would know the basic facts. We've increased petroleum production over 30% while getting our emissions down, Mr. Speaker. We built a pipeline to the West Coast, increasing our oil exports, something he and Stephen Harper could never do. We are getting Canada's GDP up. We are creating opportunities in Canada's resource sector. MPs from Alberta should know the difference, Mr. Speaker.
Nothing could be further from the truth. The Liberals can't get their story straight on the economy. On one hand, they say that tariffs are hurting us. On the other hand, they claim that we have the best possible tariffs of anyone in the world. Both of these statements can be true, but that never stops a Liberal from saying them. Here are the facts since this Prime Minister took office. The deficit has doubled. Canada has the fastest shrinking G7 economy with the second highest unemployment. $54 billion of net investment investment has fled the country. And 86,000 people have lost their jobs. Energy workers can't afford to wait for empty promises to materialize. If the Prime Minister can't get the job done, why won't he get out of the way so Conservatives can get back to work and build this country?
Everybody, it's Bob Zimmer with the one and only
Michelle Ferreri.
She's back in the House of Commons in Ottawa.
I am.
So what have you been up to, Michelle?
Well, I'm moving into Shaken and
We see that on social media. You're busy.
I am.
Yeah.
Trying to restore the Canada that so many people want restored.
Right.
And, you know, up here helping MPs and other people. We've got some amazing
Making a difference.
And spreading the message. Hey?
Well, I know when you came here to make a difference, and you're still doing that. So
thanks, Bobby.
keep up the good work.
Bob was one of the very first people I sat with.
Yes.
And he saw my genuine shock and awe
Yes.
of how the Liberals lie.
Yes.
And I was like, is this for real? Are they joking?
The rude awakening that they just don't want to do good things.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you, my friend. Nice to see you. This is like, I love being here. Thank you. We're doing a little video on Bob Zimmer. Say
That's
hi.
okay. It's okay.
Say hi, Roman.
Roman, nice to see you. Anyway, good to see you, Michelle. Keep up the good work, eh?
I miss seeing you, Bobby.
You're not going too far away?
No.
Same.
No.
Good.
We're going to help all of the people in your riding. We're going to restore and we're going to bring everybody back.
Good.
Right? Because we're too divided.
I think, exactly. I think united under that common vision that Pierre shares, right, with most Canadians, that, hey, we need to get this country back on track. So.
Well, you know what brings people together? Great leadership. You know that.
Exactly.
Your dad. You know that.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is a culmination of a 2-year investigation. I want everybody to understand we didn't go looking for this. This investigation came to us. And what we found was money laundering, corruption, and elite capture at the highest levels. During our investigation, we had some brave citizens, islanders from Prince Edward Island that came forward and provided a depth of information that would provide for a law enforcement agency sufficient grounds to launch a criminal investigation. One of the things that we were able to look or ascertain was the amounts of money that was coming into the province was all in cash, consecutive $100 bills, brand new, in the amounts on a weekend of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This amounted to millions of dollars over the course of time that we looked into it over the number of years that the monastery, Bliss and Wisdom, has been operating in Prince Edward Island. We were able to establish that the monastery has set up a network of corporations. And if you look at it from a point of view of money laundering, it's what you would anticipate finding in an organized crime network. This monastery, if you look at it from a Dalai Lama's point of view, you would not anticipate finding corporations, land transfers, land flips, and citizens being paid under the table cash for residences and property. And that is what has happened in Prince Edward Island now for a period of a number of years, ever since the provincial nominee program came into existence and they were allowed in. The Master Jinyan, who came into the province, it is our belief from our investigation that he's tied directly back to the PLC, or the Communist Party in China. In my experience, having worked both in Asia and from 91 to 94, having collaborated with Sam Cooper and had hours of discussion with him over the many, many years, I can tell you my view is that the PRC government, the only way to describe it is that they're the largest transnational organized crime group in the history of the world.
It shouldn't really be part of a negotiation. Donald Trump has already signaled he supports Keystone. He signed an order approving it back in 2017 in his first term. If Mark Carney is offering something up to Donald Trump in exchange for Keystone, then Mark Carney is the worst negotiator in the world, because Donald Trump has already signaled that he wants it. You don't have to give something up in order to get something from someone who's already signaled they're going to do it.
You've said previously, I believe it was a Global News interview, that we search less than 1% of what comes into Canada, and you mentioned that last year. Is that still true today? Has anything changed in the last year?
No, nothing's changed. Again, we are not dinosaurs. We realize that technology can be helpful. What we're seeing at the CBSA is technology replacing us. We really don't search much. We don't speak to almost anyone at all anymore coming through airports. We see similar plans for land borders. It's extremely concerning. We're depending on someone to self-declare to a machine in large part.
The 1,000 border agents, with these resources then, you mentioned it already, they're better on the front line. That's where we need them.
Absolutely the one place where we need them, yes.
I believe you mentioned in that same interview that rail we don't do at all. Is that still the case? So it's still the case that rail we don't do at all. So in my community of Oshawa, we have 2 rail lines that come right through CN and CPKC. We need to be able to do that. So would you say criminals know where our blind spot is then?
It would be very naive to think they don't.
So it would be fair to say they absolutely know that rail is our blind spot and they are using that now and we're doing nothing about it.
I've never asked one, but I would be shocked if they do not.
Okay, thank you. That's fair.
What do we need to do to build that confidence back into a CBSA agent?
I think you need to start properly staffing with the officers who do the work. Right now, we are absolutely drowning in middle management. We have ports of entry who have more managers than officers. Managers don't process travelers. That's extremely common at the CBSA. The other thing is that we're not an organization who promote from within. You look at other law enforcement agencies, the people in positions to make decisions have all come from the line. They've worked as officers, they know the workplaces, they know the job. CBSA is unique in that they do not do that. We parachute people in from outside. So the people who are in a position to decide how the border is going to operate have never worked at a border. So in terms of confidence from our membership, from the officers as to how the border is operating is close to zero. You often have to explain to upper management how borders work as though you're explaining it to someone who's never traveled in an airport, who doesn't know how a land border works. It is, I'm trying to use my words carefully. It is, it's really shocking at times, and these are the people who are deciding how our border works. I think the other big thing, too, that, I get to speak about less here, too, though, is the absolutely toxic culture. We are not last in the public service employee survey, every single survey, accidentally. People would rather work in prisons than come to a CBSA workplace. That's a terrible sign. It's toxicity, it's an overabundance of managers, and we see policies being implemented like they're doing now, essentially telling every single person working there that you are a slip or fall away and we will show you the door. It's a horrendous way to treat people. I would almost say it's un-Canadian. It's unheard of anywhere else, and it's consistent with the CBSA. We allow the RCMP to do day's work and doing that work between ports of entry. Right now, we've seen different combinations of provincial forces, parks involved, sheriffs. It seems like everyone is helping protect the border except the CBSA, who seem very happy to just sit back and let others fulfill what is actually their mandate. To intercept someone under IRPA or the Customs Act, it is only the CBSA and RCMP who even have that legal authority. So the system they have now is if one of these provincial authorities picks up someone between a port of entry, they bring them back to us anyway.
IRCC, Immigration Refugee Canada, confirmed at Immigration Committee that there are over 47,000 people here on expired student visas, so they're here illegally. Is that a high number historically in your experience?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that does not surprise me, no.
Does it not surprise you that you think it's a high number?
No, it doesn't surprise me that that is the number.
Yeah. Now, how many officers across the country are tasked with from CBSA to investigate these 47,000 plus cases?
Yeah, that would be our inland officers. Top of my head, I'd say around 300 and change.
Whole country?
Pretty much, yeah.
Would you say it's taking up a lot of the resources of CBSA or is it not a priority to look for these 47,000?
No, it is. Again, it's a matter of resources. There's only so many people to do all of that work. It's a very heavy-handed management. Everything is dealt with discipline. It's not a management style where you speak to your employees. Everything is done through a formal fact-finding, suspensions, disciplines, firings. The ability to speak to an employee has been absolutely lost at this agency. It's a culture that's hard to change. I think it has a lot to do with the overabundance of management as well. It makes our members feel disheartened in that all we really want to do is be able to do our job. It seems that management is there to tell us repeatedly that no, you got into this to keep Canadian communities safe, but no, you can't do what you want to be doing. Right? One of the difficulties we have now is that there's only really room to park a small number of cars to actually do the searches. Once you found X amount of stolen cars, we have...
Just this morning, I spoke with a father who's here today, who is fighting to protect his 8-year-old son. His boy was encouraged at school to believe he was actually a girl. Teachers used a new name and pronouns and kept it secret. Now, a psychologist is already discussing puberty blockers despite having never met the child. My question through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. What do you have to say to parents who are justifiably enraged by the reality that under your direction, schools are transitioning children behind their backs?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Spreading disproven conspiracy theories to spread fear and misinformation that targets vulnerable kids when those decisions should be made by their parents with the love and support that they provide them and the doctors. I think I've spoken before about how we really disagree with this type of politics. And we're really sorry that to all those people out there and the families out there that are going through this and supporting their loved ones, and the kids out there that are hearing this, I'm sorry.
Support this bill.
The honourable member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister promised to create jobs in Canada, but since he became Prime Minister, we've lost 86,000 jobs. Promise broken. He promised to increase investment in Canada, but since he became Prime Minister, we lost $54 billion of investment to the United States. Promise broken. Yesterday, we all watched in shock as he promised another $1 trillion of Canadian investment money to the United States. I hope it is not the case that he plans to keep his promise to Donald Trump after breaking his promises to Canadians. How many jobs will it cost us if he does?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that member is new to this chamber, so maybe he doesn't know the record of the party that he sits with. But they've voted consistently against the interests of Canadians. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, but they've fought against Canadians' rights, whether it's labour rights, Mr. Speaker, whether it's the right to retire at a decent age, Mr. Speaker, whether it's the right to raise our children with the resources that we need, Mr. Speaker. These Conservatives have voted against Canadians, and that's why Canadians don't trust them, Mr. Speaker. On this side, they trust the Prime Minister to get this job done.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, on the other hand, this minister is not a new member, and so she should know her own record. 86,000 job losses under this Prime Minister alone. Canada has the worst youth employment rate in over 25 years. Job numbers come out again this Friday, and the situation continues to get grimmer. Witnesses at our parliamentary public hearings on youth unemployment were very clear yesterday. It isn't a wealth distribution problem, it's a wealth creation problem. And the Prime Minister wants to send another $1 trillion to the United States. Why is he breaking his promises and continuing to ship jobs south of the border?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, well, youth would be disappointed to know that that member voted against their interests time and time and time again. Whether it was for skills training, Mr. Speaker, whether it was for Canada Summer Jobs, Mr. Speaker, whether it was in investments in research and innovation, Mr. Speaker, I sure hope that the nature of that question means he'll vote for this budget, Mr. Speaker, because we're going to invest in Canadians, and Canadians know that.
That's right. You mentioned the IP. Allow me to push back a bit. Part 14 literally allows the government or the authorities to go to any service provider, any part of the country, and ask them. That can be a gynecologist, could be a child psychiatrist, could be anywhere. But it's not Bell, Rogers, and TELUS. The concerns that civil liberties people have is that it is anyone with no warrant, with just a reasonable grounds to suspect that a crime may be committed, to then get a trove of data about if a person is a client or not. So the example you gave, sure, is a very simple one, but there's much more complex systems. So again, you said that you heard compelling criticism of this bill. How do you explain how far this goes without any judicial supervision, just judicial review?
So let me just clarify, right? On the need to get what's called subscriber information, the singular information that could be obtained by subscriber information is this individual a client of say, a telco or not. Like, that is the only question that can be asked. Beyond it, when you want to get subscriber information, the police need to provide a warrant. It's based on a reasonable grounds to suspect. So, look, if there's elements of it that we need to tighten, we will be more than willing to do that. But for the purpose of today, C12 is the focus, where lawful access is not incorporated in that bill.
We have to use our leverage. We have to use our strengths. As President Trump wants to destroy our auto sector, take down our steel sector, go after our manufacturing sector, we can't sit back and let President Trump continuously increase tariffs and the Prime Minister's decreasing tariffs. That doesn't cut it.
He took that approach. What do you think?
Well, I thought it was interesting in that exchange, actually, because as has been commented many times today, Trump spoke for most of that news conference.
Same as in May.
Yeah, Carney said very little. And it looked to me like he was asking for permission to speak at that point. You know, he tapped him, and it was like he wanted to say something, but he had to get permission to do that.
Senator Batters.
All right, so check this one out. We're always making fun of Secretary McLean because she looks like a mangy cat with unbrushed hair and just generally like a freak and a geek from the mid-1990s. Watch how she rejects answering Senator Diane Batter's question.
Secretary McLean, the Senate's current sessional order states that it is to be ministers who are invited to these question periods. Yet the Prime Minister's office website plainly states that secretaries of state, quote, are not members of cabinet. And after all, this is ministerial question period, not secretarial question period. But I'll ask you the questions that the Carney government Senate leader could not answer for me in June. Do you have your own department and departmental budget? What is your salary? What is your office budget? And do you have a car and driver?
They're pretty reasonable questions, right? Like, how much do you make? Do you have a budget in your department? Do you have a car driver, a driver? Come on.
Madam Secretary.
Listen.
I believe this question is not within my portfolio. I think that the question needs to be directed to finance, who's responsible for budgets, et cetera, or the Prime Minister's office that's responsible for appointments. And I'm pleased to have received an invite, even if your rules say that I'm not to be invited. So thank you.
Senator Batters. You are a Secretary of State. I'm asking about your position. The government Senate leader could not answer questions about it, so that's why I'm asking you about your own things. If you do have a department, I want to also know, does your department's deputy minister report to you or to a minister? And Secretary McLean, your seniors portfolio used to be a full ministry, but it has now been downgraded by the Carney government to a Secretary of State. That does not say much for the priority your government places on the seniors who built our country. How many full cabinet meetings have you attended since you were appointed to this position in May? Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Again, the determinations of how cabinet is arranged are within the portfolio of the Prime Minister's office, so I will direct you there. With respect to the portfolio of seniors, I think that by having a Secretary of State for seniors, the Prime Minister has shown leadership and dedication to ensuring that seniors have their perspective represented throughout government decision making, particularly at a time where a agile small cabinet is needed for really important economic decision making given the times that we find ourselves in the global economic context. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right, guys, here we go.
Liberals are all for oil as long as it stays politely in the ground, it seems. Their position very much with oil and gas is very like, we'll push you down the stairs, but make sure you pat me on the back for calling 911 to help you afterwards. And that's what they seem to be doing with the oil and gas. We're going to be an energy superpower. We're going to develop oil and gas, but we're going to keep C-69, C-48 into production cap. And it won't be their fault that no one steps up from the private sector. The capital gains tax, another one. I just want the government to be honest. We heard the old finance minister say basically Canadians were going to be living behind gated communities to keep out lower income people who wanted to burn them down unless we had this capital gains tax. She stated we could finance it by taking on more debt, but that would place an unfair burden on our younger generations. But they're going to add $60 billion of debt this year alone. She then urged Canadians to mark politicians who voted against the capital gains tax increase. The current finance minister says our capital gains tax change will help Canadians, will fight for Canadians, will fight for the middle class. Goes on to state, can members believe Conservatives voted against the capital gains tax and tax fairness? And they were going to increase investment in Canada because their new capital gains tax would ask the wealthiest to pay a bit more to fund investments. Move ahead a couple months, and the same finance minister, same one who says we should rejoice at rising unemployment, that auto workers, I guess, should rejoice that we're going to have a permanent export tax on their cars, permanent tariffs is going to cause the industry to collapse. He says, capping the capital gains tax, we're supporting builders and investment entrepreneurs. Is there any reason we doubt the Liberals when they say they're going to build the fastest growing economy in the G7? Well, at the same time, they bring in massive deficits that's going to drive out private sector investment. Their policies are causing massive record increases to use of the food bank. Is there any reason no one trusts the Liberals? Everything was all in on the carbon tax, the capital gains tax. Everything, all this borrowing that we're going to do was going to drive investment into Canada. And yet we've seen under the Liberals a $500 billion net investment flee the country, with the Prime Minister promising another $1 trillion will flee Canada into the U.S. under their watch. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, we need a change. It's clear the government has to end their Trudeau-era policies and get real with Canadians. Be honest with Canadians, be upfront. Change the way before it's too late. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when I heard the member speak, he talked about some of the challenges that exist in the country, and the government by no means suggests that it's perfect out there. The government is working within the realities, trying to meet Canadians where they're at, ensure that we have programs. That's why we've reduced taxes for 22 million Canadians. We've removed the GST from first-time home buyers for that 30-year-old that is trying to save up to be able to buy a home. We've actually introduced measures that member hopefully is telling his own constituents about. But, you know, if you're one of the 7 million Canadian seniors who receive old age security, that member voted against that. If you are one of the 5.1 million Canadian children that are in receipt of the Canadian Child Benefit, that member voted against it. If you are one of the over 1 million Canadians that are now receiving dental support, that member voted against it. But what I find facetious about this entire debate is that member ran on a platform of actually promising $106 billion of new spending if a Conservative government were actually in these seats. How does he stand up and be able to say these things with a straight face?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Well, first of all, I'd like to remind the member opposite, if the Liberals had not cratered our economy, they would not have to be providing so much in welfare-type services to Canadians. The reality is there can be good spending if it is for actual investments that produce productivity, if it goes toward reducing regulations, if it goes toward perhaps repealing C-69, C-48, and the emissions cap, which would be the greatest thing to unleash prosperity across the country. This government has done nothing but add on red tape, regulations, and everything possible to destroy the economy, and the results show massive unemployment increases, increases in youth unemployment, and massive increases in debt.
Hear, hear. Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it's concerning because I see that the Liberals are cutting measures that might create a great deal of revenue, like, for example, the counter tariffs that never came about, or the digital services tax. Earlier, I heard from the Leader of the Opposition, and I asked him how he would give money back to Quebecers and Canadians, and he said more about cuts. So really, I'd like to ask my colleague what would be the concrete measures to invest in the economy, to stimulate the economy, to encourage investors to invest and develop businesses, because I'm not hearing that from the Conservatives.
For Edmonton West.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Drummond for his question. Perhaps he hasn't been listening. We've been very clear. We can grow the economy by cutting the red tape, cutting the job-killing regulations that reduce investment, cutting taxes so that we are competitive with international competitors, and having a business environment where people will invest and create jobs in this country, such as getting rid of C-48, the job-killing, pipeline-killing C-69, and the oil and gas production cap, which, by the way, produces the most wealth and is the main driver of equalization rates through his province.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. The honourable member for Windsor West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Edmonton West for the speech. The world over, Mr. Speaker, shares or exports energy. Even developing nations do that. How is it that we are not doing that? The question I have for the member is, can he walk us through how repealing liberal anti-energy laws would help restore investment and job growth in regions like Windsor, Ontario, and Alberta?
Member for Edmonton West.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Windsor West for his tough but fair question. Our energy industry is waiting to be unleashed. The International Energy Agency says we're not going to see peak oil to 2050, unlike the former Liberal Minister of Resource who said it was going to peak last year. We're going to see decades more growth in demand for oil. Canada can be the country that delivers that oil in an environmental way and a way that's with ethics. Instead of giving money to dictators that we're doing right now through the Liberal oil and gas cap, Canada can produce that oil for the free world. Canada can create that wealth here in the country that's going to drive investment, wealth for Canadians, and job for Canadians as well. Thank you.
Resuming debate, reprise de débat. Before I give the right to the member for Huron-Bruce, I have to inform that he will be interrupted at the beginning of statements by members and question period, and he'll be able to continue after question period with the rest of his speech. So the honourable member for Huron-Bruce.
Here. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise here today. Basically, what we're talking about today with this motion is just basically end the Justin Trudeau-style economic philosophy and the Justin Trudeau-style budgeting, and let's get back to the basics here. And we're talking about investments today and different things. And before I get started, I should congratulate the Toronto Blue Jays on a great victory and a great series. That was excellent. We can all agree in this house about that. See, a little bit of unity before we get the punching in. But what did they do? I'll even give them credit for private investment. They spent $750 million over the past few years updating the Rogers Centre, and they didn't ask for any government money that I know of. They had a business case, and they went about it, and they did it. And I think they did it on time and on budget, and now they're into the next round of the playoffs. They're getting the return on investment. And that's really what we're talking about here today. We've got to unleash the private business investment in this country. We have to become more attractive to foreign companies and our own domestic companies to make a decision to invest in Canada. But there's far too much red tape and obstruction to do that. And there was a Liberal MP that spoke about 20 minutes ago, and it was interesting what she said. She said they've created a new program to deal with all the red tape and delays in the programs. Well, guess who created all that red tape and delays in the programs? This Liberal government has been around so long, they're trying to fix the devastation that they've created, but it's never going to happen because they don't know how to fix it. If you go back 10 years, Stephen Harper and Joe Oliver delivered a budget really in the legacy of Jim Flaherty, and it was a balanced budget. And the government expenditures that year were $289 billion for a balanced budget. The entire deficit for the country, the net debt for the country was $610 billion, which is a lot, but it was $610 billion. Debt to GDP at that time was just over 31% and declining and declining. And we really were, after a number of years, becoming a destination to do business around the world. Justin Trudeau came along and he said, look, I'm just going to spend a little bit more here over the next 3 years. I'm going to have a balanced budget in 2020, little deficits in the medium term, $10 billion a year for some investment to kickstart the economy. Now that should have been deadpanned right from the beginning, because in a $2 trillion economy, $10 billion is really not going to get the job done. And right from the beginning, Canadians should have known, we knew, everybody should have known that when a person comes in with that kind of philosophy, it's going to fail. And when you fast forward to today, the debt is over 1.2 trillion net debt. The gross debt is way more, but the net debt is 1.3 trillion dollars. The debt to GDP, just for Canada, not for all the provinces combined.
Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it, bud.
Is over 40%, 45%, I believe. The deficit this year, incredibly, will be higher than a Justin Trudeau deficit at approximately $62.5 billion. And all the while, they've told Canadians, we just need to invest a little more, to the point now where I believe in 2024, 2025, total government expenditure is at $450 billion. So in 10 years, we've increased the size of government by well over 50%. We've more than doubled Canada's debt permanently. We've added burden onto young Canadians that will last their lifetime and generations down the line, all because Justin Trudeau said 10 years ago we're going to make a little wee investment. And he used the term modest short-term deficit. And he also used the term that came back to bite him pretty hard, the budget will balance itself. Now, the other chief architect of this commentary is now the Prime Minister. He was his advisor all the way along. And when Canadians were looking at him in the winter and through the spring, they thought, boy, we've really broken away from this Trudeau guy. But really what they did is they elected Trudeau on steroids. And now, months later, they can't believe what they got. I know, because I'm out in my community all the time. People can't believe what they've got. And it's not just in finance and business, it's in everything. It's universal disappointment. And so what we need to do is we really need to get back to the basics. We need to create an economic climate where we can invite people to do business in our country. There's transparency. They know exactly what the rules are. I mean, think how many times the rules have changed since the Liberals have been in government for 10 years. Big projects, little projects, everything's changing all the time. He also said one thing, and maybe it was the worst lie you could have ever told a Canadian, was we took on debt so you wouldn't have to. A lot of Canadians really took that literally back 5 years ago, and they are really being bit now. They're to the point where they're giving the keys back to the bank, where they're record lineups to food banks. It goes on and on and on. And it used to be 10 years ago when Stephen Harper and Jim Flaherty and Joe Oliver were putting together budgets, a young family had a future. They could afford to buy a home. They could afford to save for their kids' education, to put food on the table and not have to rely on government food programs to feed their children at lunchtime. You could afford to buy groceries and put it in your kid's lunchbox. You could afford to raise your kids, go on sports, go on a vacation. You could do all these things. You may have to work a bit overtime, and you may have to save from time to time, but you could do it. Now, that dream is way out in the distance. And I just talked to somebody just the other day, and they were talking about all the boomerang kids that have come back to live with their family. You never...
Unfortunately, we have to stop there. The honourable member will have a little over 3 minutes left when the House resumes orders of the day after question period. Déclaration de députés, statements by members. The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize Dr. Hakam Singh Puller and his new book, The Underdog. In 1995, Dr. Puller became the first Indo-Canadian veterinarian to open a low-cost
Are we being serious right now? Like, oh my goodness. These liberals stick it in your face. Like, mostly open-minded here. I swear, open mind. But this guy makes my mind close a little bit. Like, what in the hell?
Public apology from the College of Veterinarians of BC.
Oh,
The underdog is a story of struggle, resilience, and courage to fight for justice. I commend Dr. Puller for this important contribution to our community and to Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to rise today to extend congratulations to the Calgary Canucks, a junior hockey club in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Their determination, skill, and community spirit brought home a momentous victory. On May 18th, 2025, in Calgary at the Max Bell Centre, our team triumphed in the Centennial Cup with a commanding 7-2 win over the Melfort Mustangs, securing their first national junior championship in 30 years. On behalf of this House and indeed all Albertans and all Canadians, thank you to the Calgary Canucks for reigniting our pride and illustrating how sport can unite, inspire, and give hope. With community support, collective effort, and determination, greatness is achievable. Please join me in congratulating the 2025 Centennial Cup champion Calgary Canucks.
The honourable member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, just weeks ago, thousands gathered outside the United Nations in New York to demand a free and democratic Iran. Led by the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the rally united international dignitaries and politicians, as well as supporters of the Iranian resistance in rejecting dictatorship and calling for a future rooted in liberty, justice, and democratic values. A deeply troubling UN report released just days ago reveals an unprecedented execution spree in Iran, with over 1,000 people executed in just 9 months. UN experts warn that Iran is carrying out executions at an industrial scale. The NCRI's 10-point plan rejects foreign intervention and appeasement and champions democratic change led by the Iranian people. Canada must continue to stand with all those fighting for human rights and democratic freedoms around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the E-Mental Health International Collaborative is bringing the world to Canada for the 10th Digital Mental Health Global Congress in Toronto. Under the leadership of Professor Anil Thapliyal, hundreds of experts from dozens of countries will gather to build the future of mental health care. Worldwide, the need for mental health supports outstrips our ability to provide help the traditional way. Through the use of innovative digital tools, we can change just that. Digital tools offer the ability to bring health care to the patient in a timely manner and catering to the individual needs of the patient. Technology offers hope, it offers care, and it offers a way to scale up in a way that isn't possible any other way. It offers a possibility of providing the same level of care no matter where you live. I would like to welcome all the delegates and look forward to being part of this important work.
The honourable member for Mont-Saint-Bruno-L'Acadie. Mr. Speaker, we will soon mark International Day of the Girl, a day to celebrate the strength, intelligence, and aspirations of girls here in Canada and elsewhere. It's also a time to reflect on the challenges that they still too often face: unequal access to education, violence, poverty, and a lack of role models in decision-making positions. As parliamentarians, we have a duty to build an environment where every girl can flourish to her full potential without compromise. As the father of 3 daughters, this day is very important to me. Every day I see their curiosity and their desire to contribute to a more just world. My 3 daughters inspire me, as so many other girls do, to work toward a future where their dreams face no obstacles. Investing in them means contributing to a more inclusive and equitable society. I salute all the girls of Mont-Saint-Bruno-L'Acadie and elsewhere who remind us through their courage and commitment that change begins now.
The honourable member for St. John...
Imagine that guy preaching to you about an equitable society. He just did it, and he was talking about little girls. Like, my ass.
Mr. Speaker, it was a terrible, awful shock to learn of Nigel Wright's sudden passing. Nigel was a good man, maybe the best amongst us. He had titles, success, and stature, but he was humble. He demonstrated humility when he could have been filled with pride. Nigel had a great commitment to charity, but this too did not fully capture Nigel's goodness. His deepest devotion was to God. From that faith, everything followed. Humility is rare in public life. We think it means being overlooked or even walked over. Saint Augustine asked, "Do you wish to rise? Begin by descending." He taught that humility is the foundation of all Christian values. It allows us to acknowledge our limitation. Nigel lived a Christian life, a servant's life. I pray that Nigel is now in heaven with his God, his Savior, our Lord Jesus Christ.
The honourable member for Canada.
Mr. Speaker, today I am excited to announce the launch of Canada's first all-season medium-speed autonomous shuttle right here in Ottawa in my riding of Canada in Canada's largest technology park. Operating along a 4.5-kilometre route with 8 stops, this shuttle connects employees, students, and visitors throughout the park. It reduces emissions, improves accessibility, and supports a more connected and inclusive community. This shuttle is equipped with advanced sensors, artificial intelligence, and safety systems, allowing the shuttle to safely operate in all seasons and showcasing Canadian innovation in action. This launch today positions Ottawa as a global leader in smart mobility and moves us closer to a future of cleaner, smarter, and more sustainable transportation. Congratulations to all involved making it happen.
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, the residents of Niagara were shocked over the brutal sexual assault of a 3-year-old toddler by sexual predator Daniel Senecal. Nearly a year after the Liberal election promised to act decisively to strengthen the criminal code and protect victims from strengthening bail laws, the government has done nothing. The impact on my community is profound and has mobilized brave people, survivors, and the entire region demanding changes to the criminal code. I've talked to first responders in my community. These men and women have children of their own. The Chief of Well and Fire told me it's important that MPs and leaders from across Canada understand the devastating impact these crimes have on the brave people that we depend on to protect us every single day. Mr. Speaker, we are done with reckless, liberal, hug-a-thug, weak-on-crime, catch-and-release justice system. Canadians don't feel safe in their neighbourhoods and their homes. It's time for the Liberals to step up or let Conservatives do it.
The honourable member for Berthier-Maskinongé. Mr. Speaker, on October 10th we celebrate World Egg Day. I would therefore like to salute the producers of Berthier-Maskinongé, the producers from across Quebec and all around the world. Let us highlight together the importance of this healthy, nutritious, top-quality food. It's so versatile that you'll run out of imagination long before you find a recipe that doesn't include it or can't include them. And what's more, eggs are produced right here at home. Let's recognize the extraordinary contribution of our producers and the large number of young people who are the pride of this industry. These producers, their families, and the communities they belong to all rely on our supply management system to continue to thrive and ensure the vitality of our rural regions. Let's continue to respect and support them. Headwinds and external pressures must never cause us to stray from our commitment because our food resilience has no price, Mr. Speaker. Happy World Egg Day.
The honourable member for Port Moody, Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, as we mark Women's...
Okay, well, like, it's a science experiment gotten wrong. Like, Zoe Royer here, like, this freak got into the lab. Happy Egg Day, everybody.
History Month, I rise to recognize an outstanding athlete from my riding of Port Moody, Coquitlam, Karen Lutz. Karen competed with the first ever Team Canada para team at the Dragon Boat World Championships in Thailand in 2023 and Germany in 2025. Her local Senior C women's team also earned silver at the Canadian Nationals this August, qualifying them for the Dragon Boat World Championships in Taiwan next year. Karen's story reminds us that there is no age limit on achieving one's dreams. She is a role model for women and for girls across Canada. Karen Lutz embodies this very best of Team Canada, strength, perseverance, and pride. She's made Port Moody, Coquitlam, and all of Canada proud. Congratulations, Karen.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Tomorrow on World Mental Health Day, let's remember that there is no health without mental health. Every day, 12 Canadians die by suicide. A further 200 attempt suicide. That's 73,000 Canadians per year, Mr. Speaker, and thousands more struggle in silence. Earlier this week, I received a message from a wife of a first responder who died by suicide. She asked me to remind my colleagues that the brave men and women behind the badge are someone's husband, father, daughter, brother, friend, or colleague. They put their uniforms on every day to serve you and I and our families, to serve us and to keep us safe. And we're failing them, Mr. Speaker. Whether it's our brave police officers, paramedics, firefighters, nurses, correctional officers, or even the PPS officers right here in Parliament, they're all someone's loved one, and they matter. To anyone who is struggling, you are not alone, and if you or your loved one is in crisis, help is available 24/7. Call or text 988, and remember, it's okay not to be okay. Our world is a better place for you in it.
The Honourable Member for The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow egg farmers across Canada celebrate World Egg Day, recognizing the critical role eggs play for Canadian families and also the contributions of egg farmers to Canada's resilient domestic food system. More than 1,200 egg farmers support businesses and communities in this country on an ambitious growth agenda to increase production and consumption in alignment with the government's vision for sustainable growth. I know this as I grew up on an egg farm, collecting roughly 3,000 eggs daily as a child. Egg farmers are proud partners in regional economies and food security. Egg farmers sustain thousands of local jobs, strengthen rural economies, and provide Canadians with a reliable, high-quality source of protein. I thank all parliamentarians for their support of our Canadian egg farmers. Ask them to join me in wishing our farmers a happy World Egg Day.
The Honourable Member for Moose Jaw Lake Centre Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, I've witnessed the applause of the Liberals as they stood in the House cheering the loss of Canadian jobs. They cheer as Saskatchewan farmers have to deal with tariffs alone and pat themselves on the back, making farmers pay longer loans. They cheer of the news that car manufacturing is shutting down in Canada and head south of the border. They cheer as they try to borrow their way out of debt and burden Canadians with more taxes. They give standing ovations when we watch investment dollars go south of the border in trillion-dollar giveaways to Trump. The Prime Minister said it's okay Canadian investments go south of the border because it's a free market down there. Free market there, not here. Why do the Liberals represent, or who do the Liberals represent? Whose side are they on? Mr. Speaker, do you know what Canadians who are struggling this Thanksgiving would be grateful for? A Prime Minister that would stop breaking his promises to Canadian working families, and a government that represents Canada.
The Honourable Member for Prescott Russell Cumberland.
This October marks the 20th anniversary of Global Dignity, a non-religious, non-political non-profit that celebrates the inherent dignity of every person.
Every year, more than 1 million young people in 80 countries around the world participate in Dignity Day, reaching more than 8 million people worldwide. On October 15th, young people across Canada will celebrate with workshops, projects, and activities that highlight kindness, respect, and inclusion.
I would like to recognize Inuit artists and youth such as Tony Itak, Krish Agrawal, Eva Suluk, and Jamie Bell with the Art Borbs Corners Collective, who will join with partners in Norway and the United States to share 20 dignity-themed short stories with the world.
I invite all members of this House to join me in congratulating Global Dignity on 20 years of having an outstanding impact.
Let's celebrate the voices of Canada's youth, who remind us that dignity is a foundation of a just and compassionate society.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
How could you not love Vladdy and David Ortiz repeating after the game, "The Yankees lose"? Actually keeping their elbows up against the Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays have punched their ticket to the American League Championship with a 5-2 victory last night. Credit to Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, manager John Snyder, and his staff for building a culture where players play for each other and not for themselves. And along the way, they've allowed an entire nation to be part of this season. This, Mr. Speaker, is how championships are built. From Vladdy to Bo, Ernie to Gauze, Dalton to Kirky, Canadians know this team by their first names and nicknames. We're all part of this ride now, and I think I speak for every Canadian when I say we want it all. We want them to win the World Series, the ALCS. We want them to win the World Series. We want it all. So as the Blue Jays wait for their next opponent, Mr. Speaker, start spreading the news, and I wish I could have said it like John Snyder said it. For the first time since 2016, the Blue Jays are going to the ALCS.
The honourable member for Brome-Missisquoi.
Bench with respect to Canadian jobs, Mr. Speaker, and the Prime Minister needs to offer some respect to Quebec and Francophones that are losing their jobs, and that he needs to answer the question. The question is, he has promised, in terms of the U.S. deal, it'll involve trillions of investment, which threatens the jobs of Canadians. Did he obtain this money from the U.S. in exchange? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the current situation is that Canada has the best trade deal with the U.S. worldwide, first. Second, we can improve this agreement, and that is why Minister LeBlanc is currently there in Washington trying to negotiate with the U.S. And against this backdrop, there will be more investment here in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the Prime Minister came home empty-handed with more tariffs on softwood and automobiles, but he made a massive promise of $1 trillion of investment that would leave Canada to go to the United States. He said that this would be part of the agreement that he expects to get. So right in the agreement, he's going to commit to moving $1 trillion out of Canada. Yesterday, he confirmed it would be private money. So how is he planning to do that? Is he going to pass a law forcing our pension funds to move their money south? Or is he just going to continue with high tax and anti-development policies that cause investment to flee?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was there. And I was there in the conversation with the President. I was there in the conversations in the Oval Office. I was there in the conversations afterwards. And the situation is this. We have the best deal in the world. We're in the process of making it better for the workers in the steel sector, for the workers in the aluminum sector, for our energy workers, for our auto workers, for our workers in forest products, for our workers across this great land, because we believe in Canada. We will not rest till we have the best deal.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what we have is the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 with the second highest unemployment, and he was there. So he has a duty to tell the Canadians who are the owners of this $1 trillion that he wants to push out of our country what is in this deal, because he said it would actually be in the agreement that he's going to move $1 trillion of private money south. So there's two ways to do that. Is he going to pass a law forcing investors to sell Canadian investments, putting people out of work here, and invest in the South? Or is he going to continue to kill jobs with high taxes and anti-development policies that send money away?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know the honourable member was not here when this government cut income taxes, cut capital gains taxes, cut the carbon tax. I know the honourable member was not here when this government passed legislation for one Canadian economy and to build major projects across this great land. But the member opposite will be here when this government presents a generational investment budget November 4th, and we hope to have this.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We must be on to something here, because he has $500 billion. Canada has invested $500 billion in the U.S. over the last 5 years alone. Probably $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement we expect to get. So this is what he said. This is after he has failed to get tariffs lifted on our auto workers, our lumber workers, after thousands have lost their jobs, after he created the second highest unemployment and the worst growth in the entire G7. So here's a very direct question. He's committing $1 trillion Canadian investment dollars to head south of the U.S. Has he secured an agreement that President Trump will send the same?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has no tariffs on auto parts. Canada has the lowest tariffs on finished goods in the world. We are working towards an agreement that will increase investment in Canada, that will increase investment in the United States, but we will only accept the best agreement for Canada, and the private sector, remember that, will make those decisions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he says he's going to put it right in the agreement, so presumably he's going to enforce it somehow. Another Liberal contradiction, another failure and broken promise by this Prime Minister. Let's go to energy. Just days ago, the Prime Minister voted in favour of an energy cap that would make it impossible to fill another pipeline. Then he woke up and discovered that President Trump has, for the last 8 years, supported the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, we know that as long as he blocks production in Alberta, we won't be able to fill that pipeline with oil. So what is he going to fill it with? Maple syrup?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I voted, as did others, a majority in the House, voted against a motion to get rid of something that does not actually exist.
That's right.
Okay, the first thing, does not actually exist. Secondly, we are working with the private sector. We are working with the province of Alberta. We are working with the Americans to unlock great Canadian energy to build this economy strong.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward, and a month ago, I think my colleague, the Leader of the Opposition, should be ready to talk about the independence of Quebec. But in the meantime, heavy trucks are the object of a 25% tariff as of November 1st. Lumber has different types of tariffs, up to 45%. Aluminum and steel, up to 50%. Automotive, 27.5% in tariffs. I would like to know from the Prime Minister, when will he explain to all companies in these sectors and their workers and their subcontractors? Inaudible. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it was hard to hear the last part of that question. So the facts of the current situation. We have the best deal in the world with the U.S., first. Second, our tariffs, the tariffs on steel, aluminum, we are negotiating right now to bring them down. Third, the tariffs on trucks and automotive are the lowest in the world. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. I will hold the Prime Minister to his word. During the election campaign, right after it,
he said there'd be no more tariffs. Well, these tariffs shouldn't even exist as reprisals between friendly countries. But he said there'd be no more. And then the week after, he said there'd be a free trade agreement. He himself changed ideas, and he says he wants to negotiate a pipeline to the U.S. How does this diversify our economy, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the diversification of the Canadian economy, with our reliable partners and partners such as Asia, Indonesia, we have just signed a comprehensive deal. We are also in negotiations with the European Union, with the ASEAN, all the Asian countries. And there will be more deals with countries in South America. The Honourable Member for Ballet-Chambly. It's much later than the timeline the Prime Minister promised when he was campaigning, but we can understand that. Well, now he says there are currently negotiations underway to reduce tariffs. For 6 months now, tariffs have been going up. The U.S. keeps adding tariffs. So this isn't a great success right now. In the meantime, can he at least use the programs that he has announced for aluminum and softwood? Because not even 1 cent has been sent. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite will have the opportunity to support programs for the steel, aluminum sectors and all the sectors in Quebec and Canada with the current budget that will be tabled on November 4th.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Here we go.
Since the Prime Minister took office, nearly $54 billion investment dollars has fled our country. Yet the Prime Minister said that Canada will send the U.S., quote, $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get, end quote, that he expects to get. Well, it's Thanksgiving, and I'll tell you what Canadians expect. They expect a Prime Minister who will stand up for investment in this country, who will stand up for Canadian jobs. So when will this Prime Minister do that and finally stand up to the Americans, stand up to Donald Trump, stand up for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform my honourable colleague and the members of this House that we have provided billions of dollars of support for this economy, including $5 billion in a strategic response fund, Mr. Speaker. And we're doing this while supporting our workers, supporting sectors, including auto, and maintaining Canada's AAA credit rating and the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. Mr. Speaker, we will get the best deal for Canada, and we will take the time that we need to in order to get this done. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville.
We're going to take a big dump on your face and just wait for it. We're going to get there when we decide to take a big dump on your face.
Thousand Islands.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform the minister that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. I'd like to inform the minister that with this Prime Minister, it's been all about concessions. Back down on their DST, back down on softwood lumber, back down on auto. They've backed down on investments, and they've backed down when our workers needed them to stand up to Donald Trump, like the Prime Minister said that he would. Auto plant closures, steel plant closures, layoffs across this country. Canadians want to know why he's sending $1 trillion of investment to the Americans. When's he finally going to stand up for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we actually believe in the potential of this country. And in fact, the statistics are bearing this out. The lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7, inflation, and and wages are working in Canada's favour. We will continue to grow this economy by investing in the workers, by investing in sectors, and we will do this while making sure that foreign direct investment flows to Canada, where we sit at the very top of countries as ranked in the G20. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
While in Washington, the Prime Minister bragged that his Liberal government has already driven $500 billion of investment south of the border over the last 5 years. And then he proudly vowed that he would send another $1 trillion south of the border if we get the agreement that we expect to get. In other words, this is exactly what this Prime Minister wants to do. He wants to drive investment from Canada to the United States. So much for elbows up, okay? So here's the choice. Does the Prime Minister plan to order Canadian pension funds to invest in the United States? Or does he plan to continue his anti-development projects or initiatives?
You ran out of time. The Honourable Government House Leader.
We have this disturbing trend about the Leader of the Opposition making something up, and then members down and up the line, they even add on new and very intriguing figures and facts, Mr. Speaker. We don't quite really understand, can't follow the logic. Here's what I can say the government's doing. It is in negotiations with the United States as we speak. The Minister for Canada-U.S. Trade is there. We're going to negotiate a great deal for Canada, and we're going to continue to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Here's what we know and can't be refuted. We know that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. We know that the unemployment rate is the second highest. We know that Canadians are already struggling to be able to put food on their tables and take care of their families. And now we know that this Prime Minister went to the United States of America and promised that he would drive another $1 trillion of investment south of the border, therefore putting Canadian families at a disadvantage because they won't have jobs. What will this Prime Minister do to put his elbows up and stand up for them?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, taking the Opposition Research Bureau stuff and just repeating it does not make it true. What we do know, and Statistics Canada would confirm this, is that Canada's economy is in fact growing. And what does growth mean? It means we're adding value to our economy, adding opportunities for workers. Of course we're concerned about job losses. Of course we will continue to defend Canadian workers right across this land. But one thing's for sure, we'll take our statistics from this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Swift Current, Grasslands, Kindersley.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's an old proverb that says that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Canadian workers are getting sick and tired of this Prime Minister's good intentions. The best predictor of the future is the past. So let's take a look at the Prime Minister's record. His last act as the chair of Brookfield was to move their company headquarters out of Canada into the United States, into the welcoming arms of President Trump. So I guess it's pretty clear. The Prime Minister will continue to sell out Canadian workers to the U.S. Isn't that right?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat what we have announced in this House. 85% of Canadian exports go to the U.S. without any taxes or tariffs, Mr. Speaker. What's more? Moreover, please listen. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian economy is open. Capital moves on both sides of the border, and we're going to do everything we can to continue to attract capital to Canada to invest and grow faster. The honourable member for Charlesbourg au Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised U.S. President $1 trillion investment in the next 5 years if they get the agreement we deserve. And how come the Prime Minister recommended the move of his company, Brookfield, to the headquarters to the U.S. And now they're investing in the U.S. How come the Prime Minister is recommending investment in the U.S. instead of in Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. I have to confess, Mr. Speaker, that I'm surprised to see that our members opposite do not understand this notion of capital flows. The entire Canadian economy is an open one. Capitals come in, they go out. It is a great transition to invest abroad and also to accept foreign investment. That's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to grow the Canadian economy. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. The contract, Mr. Speaker, we understand that he recommended moving the headquarters of Brookfield to the U.S., and now the largest company has announced that it would move its headquarters to the U.S., a trucking company of 25,000 employees. Right now, it's not surprising to see the Canadian economy is contracting the fastest in the G7. We should be employing Canadians and not Americans. Does not the PM not agree? Mr. Speaker, that's exactly the question on April 28th. Canadians answered in great numbers, yes. It's just this Prime Minister who's going to be in charge of governing Canada and to continue to spur economic growth that is both quick and diversified. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister accused us of misrepresenting his words. He's always the one who talks about the Russian invasion of Ukraine when he justifies his opposition to the notwithstanding clause. He's the one who sent a brief to the Supreme Court in which he used slavery and summary executions as arguments. He is always the one who claims that the notwithstanding clause could be used to ban places of worship, abolish trade unions, and shut down newspapers. Frankly, who is distorting reality, the minister or those who defend the notwithstanding clause? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. It's clear. It is essential for the federal government to defend our charter, to defend our human rights and protect our Constitution. If this case is before, the Supreme Court, it is responsible for us to defend the Charter and our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, there are no circumstances when the federal government won't intervene, and it's important for today and tomorrow to protect the rights of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, in an open letter from the 5 premiers, the signatories point out that the notwithstanding clause made it possible to repatriate the Constitution. But the Liberals want to rewrite history and fully subject to Quebec and the provinces to the federal charter. In short, the Liberals want to erase the constitutional compromise of 1982. Government is orchestrating a power grab to weaken the National Assembly and the provinces. Will the minister not see reason, respect the notwithstanding clause, and stop attacking the parliamentary sovereignty of Quebec and the provinces? Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I disagree entirely with what my Bloc colleague has just said. Our intervention with the Supreme Court is to defend the rights of Canadians and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There's nothing in our intervention before the Supreme Court that would prevent provinces to continue to use the notwithstanding clause if they want to. But we want the rights of Canadians, if they're violated by the use of this clause, for the courts to be able to pronounce a decision on that respect.
Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Canada has the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. BC forestry workers are already hard hit, but it's going to get worse. The Prime Minister promised to negotiate a win with the USA, but softwood lumber tariffs have doubled since he took office. Instead of keeping his promise to Canadians, he is promising to invest $1 trillion into the U.S. economy. How many more BC lumber workers will lose their jobs because of this Prime Minister's failures?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear that the tariffs are unjustified, and we are working at every level to address them. We've created $50 million of supports for workers. We've created $700 million of liquidity support for companies and $500 million for new markets and new innovations in the sector. We're going to continue to work to support the forestry sector, and we hope that they'll get on board.
That's right. The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
This Liberal government can't make up their mind. On one hand, they say it's unjust, then they say it's the greatest deal in the world. Exactly. Make up your mind. There's mills closing all across BC. Skeena Solomons and Terrace, Canfor in Houston, West Fraser shut down and left hundreds of my constituents out of work in an already weak economy. Our communities are hurting. Since this Prime Minister took office, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled, putting even more Canadian jobs and communities at risk. Right. When will this Prime Minister do what he promised and stand up for our forestry mills and for the communities and families who depend on these jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, we will always stand with the workers in the affected communities, which is why we continue to invest and will do so in the future as well. There are significant difficulties with the long-standing softwood lumber dispute, but those are difficulties we are addressing head-on. We are working at every level to challenge them, and we are doing that with the support of the whole Canadian economy. We are finding that we can leverage innovative new ways to make sure that we can get the best deal possible for our lumber sector.
The Honourable Member for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegwuk.
People in Northern Ontario and Canada urgently need this government to address the impact of U.S. lumber tariffs. The Liberal government is failing sawmill workers, and the situation is only getting worse. The Prime Minister promised to negotiate a deal with the Americans, yet forestry and sawmill workers in Calstock, in Hearst, Cochrane, Chapleau, Kirkland, and all across Canada are facing the real prospect of losing their job. Yes. What is in place does not work. Why is the Prime Minister selling out our sawmill workers in Northern Ontario and all?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, I'm no stranger to communities that struggle when industries are struck. I'm from Northern Ontario as well. But the difference between our government and the members opposite is that we step up for workers when they're struggling, whether it's through EI reforms, whether it's through investment in companies so they can actually transition, whether it's through work sharing to get a company through a tough time so that they can see a brighter future. That's the work we do on this side, Mr. Speaker, with companies every single day. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, Canada now has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment rate. And it is looking worse for lumber and mill workers in Northern Ontario. The Prime Minister promised to, and I quote, negotiate a win, but softwood lumber workers are being sold out with no deal. Why is the Prime Minister breaking his promise and selling out Canadian mill workers?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this is a great time for me to highlight the incredible work of FEDNOR, the Federal Economic Development Agency of Northern Ontario, who works with organizations across Northern Ontario and has for years to make sure that as industries change, as times change, as products change, that companies have what they need to be able to grow and adapt. We've invested millions of dollars into the softwood lumber industry, into the lumber industry in general, Mr. Speaker. We'll be there for workers, we'll be there for companies, and Canadians know that they can trust us, unlike those folks.
Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is breaking records, the fastest shrinking economy in the G7, second highest unemployment. If failure was an Olympic sport, this government would own the podium. The Prime Minister came to West Kelowna, held a press conference, and promised to negotiate a win on softwood lumber. He even said Canada would write our own story. Well, his story so far, tariffs doubled, mills closed. Hundreds of people are out of work and their families have been sold out by this government in places like Grand Forks. Mr. Speaker, if this is the story that the Prime Minister wanted to write, was the title he had in mind, How to Fail Big?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canada does write its own story, and that's a story that includes buying Canadian and buying Canadian lumber to build Canadian homes. It's a story that includes $50 million in income supports for workers. It's a story that includes $700 million in liquidity support, $500 million for innovation in the forestry sector. That's a pretty good story, Mr. Speaker, and I hope they'll help us write it.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has long been renowned for its strong advocacy for multilateralism on the international stage. During Canada's historic presidency of the G7 at this turbulent time, our government has been committed to continuing this tradition. Could the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on how Canada's diplomatic efforts are driving prosperity, creating good jobs, and strengthening our position in the global economy?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I thank the honourable colleague for her question. I want to say every country with whom I'm speaking wants more of Canada. In fact, in the G20, Canada is ranked amongst the top 2 destinations for foreign direct investment. We are the only country in the world that has a free trade agreement with every other G7 country. We are forging new relationships in the Indo-Pacific, in Europe, and in Africa. Mr. Speaker, we will not stop until we get the best deal for Canada, and all along the way we'll stand up for our workers.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, in the G7, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment. And it's only getting worse for auto workers, like the ones in my hometown, Oshawa. The Prime Minister promised to protect Canadian auto workers, yet one day after his trip to Washington, the Trump administration confirmed no relief. Auto tariffs and a promised $1 trillion to the U.S. Why is the Prime Minister selling out auto workers and families in Oshawa?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I thank the member for the question, and I'm sure the members opposite and all members of this House are well aware that we are in a major moment of transformation. The economy around the world is changing, and that's why we are going to continue to work to get the best deal for Canadians, including Canadian auto workers, through U.S. But we're not stopping there, Speaker. We're also working around the world to create new markets for Canadian for Canadian workers, to make sure that we're signing up new deals with countries in ASEAN, in countries in Mercosur, because that is how we're going to make sure that Canadian remains strong and Canadian workers have good paying jobs.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear the only auto workers that these Liberals stand with are U.S. auto workers.
Yeah.
This is personal. These are good, livable jobs that helped families buy homes, raise kids, and retire with dignity. They've done everything right, and now they're being told their jobs don't matter. These losses are the direct result of the Prime Minister's failure to stand up for Canada's auto workers, even though he promised. How can families in Oshawa and across Canada ever trust this Prime Minister again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, thank you. This government will never let Canadian auto workers down. We will not let any workers down. We will work day and night to make sure that Canadian auto industry...
They just let down every auto worker in the country. And now he's saying we'll never let them down.
Remains one of the best success stories, and that's why, as we speak, Minister of Canada-U.S. Relations is down in Washington working hard to negotiate a deal that is right for Canadian workers, and that's why the Minister of International Trade is in Africa to make sure that we have opportunities in other parts of the world. We will continue to that work so that Canadian workers have good paying jobs right here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy of the G7 and the second highest unemployment levels. If you listen to the U.S. Commerce Secretary, it's only going to get worse for auto workers, including those at the local GM plant in St. Catharines. In May, GM announced its largest investment ever in an engine plant just across the border from us in Tonawanda, New York. Meanwhile, it was crickets in St. Catharines.
That's right.
Why is this Liberal Prime Minister so hell-bent on selling out our hard-working Canadian auto workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we're making unprecedented investments in our auto sector. The $5 billion strategic response fund, for example, and all the while we are making sure that workers are supported. Companies like Nexstar Battery have committed to hire 2,500 workers and have just hired their 1,000th worker, Mr. Speaker. As an MP with Ford Motor Company company in my backyard. Let me tell you, we are here for the workers, we are here for the auto sector, and we will get the best deal for our country.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, General Motors has had a presence in St. Catharines since 1929, nearly 100 years. And if this Liberal government doesn't act, it might not reach the century mark. As billions of dollars flee Canada for the U.S., Canadian auto workers are watching in dismay as their Prime Minister offers up their jobs to the Trump administration. And for what? A free lunch. When will this Liberal Prime Minister stop selling out our Canadian auto workers, or as he already concluded, their jobs are motoring to the United States?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker,
I just
while we
crapped
are
my
on
diaper.
the topic of Canadian workers, first of all, let me thank Canadian workers, and in particular unionized workers, for contributing to the growth of our economy every single day. Our government ensured that the workers who are unionized are going to have 20 extra weeks of EI. That's expected to help thousands of workers. Mr. Speaker, on top of that, we put $450 million for retraining and upskilling to help more than 50,000 workers. Mr. Speaker, the opposition doesn't like it.
The honourable member for Essex.
Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the highest unemployment rate. 150 workers at the Stellantis plant in Essex-Windsor have lost paychecks, and now we learn that investments of $10 billion are going to a U.S. battery plant. Wow. One day after the Prime Minister's trip to Washington, the Trump administration said, no auto deal is coming. Why is the Prime Minister selling out Canadian auto workers in Essex, all the while fueling the tank of the U.S. economy?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Speaker, you know why Canadians don't trust Conservatives? Because they lie to them over and over and over. That's why, Mr. Speaker, because they can themselves go look up Canada's economy and say that, in fact, we had
Would the honourable member like to maybe rewind just a little bit before that problematic word?
Sure. Mr. Speaker, the Canadians don't trust the Conservative Party. It's because they actually don't trust the words coming out of their mouth. Over and over and over, they hear misinformation. In fact, Stats Canada shows that our economy grew in Q1 of 2025. And of course, there are changes to our economy. And of course, we have sectors that are struggling. But you know what Canadians know, Mr. Speaker? They know we have their back. While they laugh at supports for workers who have lost their job, extra 20 weeks, my son and other people who are at...
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment, contrary to what these guys believe. It's only getting worse for weak people in Windsor. The Prime Minister is breaking his promise that it would protect Canadian jobs. A day after his trip to the U.S., we just got told there's no deal coming. Jobs in Canada at risk, and the Prime Minister is pledging $1 trillion to grow the U.S. economy, which is a slap in the face to our workers. He moved his own company, Brookfield, to the U.S., and now he's doing the same for Canadian jobs. Why is this Canadian Prime Minister helping the U.S. grow their...
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Newton-Tecumseh-Glenbury.
Honda Canada and Alliston are outraged. This Prime Minister sold them out again. He folded like a cheap suit in front of Donald Trump. Canada already has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment rate. Now the Liberals have failed to secure a deal with the Americans. They're stripping the auto industry for parts and shipping those jobs straight to the U.S. Enough broken promises. Why are Canadian auto workers paying the price for this Prime Minister's failures?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, Canada has produced automobiles as part of an integrated North American industry for well over a century, and it will continue to produce automobiles for a century and more into the future. And that member knows well that we are standing up every day for union jobs in automaker plants right across this country and in Southern Ontario. We are standing up for the auto parts manufacturers. We're standing up for the entire supply chain. We have the support of the automakers in that position, and we will always, always stand with the auto industry in this country.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
After a decade of Liberal immigration failure, we need to restore order and fairness to the system. And today there are over 3 million temporary residents in Canada, an unprecedented 7.2% of Canada's population. Wow. There's no plan to get them to leave, and this is straining housing, healthcare, and jobs. Now some temporary residents are exploiting Canada's outdated automatic citizenship rules to try and overstay their visas. Will the minister align with most other countries in the world and require at least one parent to be a citizen or permanent resident to qualify for automatic citizenship?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's legislation is clear.
This bitch is going to act like she's French. She's as French as my ass.
If you were born in Canada, you are a Canadian citizen. This government will continue to support a fair and constitutional citizenship framework.
The problem is, for the first time in Canadian history, we have over 3 million temporary residents in the country, and the Liberals are still issuing record level of more temporary resident permits. So now you combine that with the Liberals' broken humanitarian claims system, a protracted appeal system, and their reluctance to deport. What's happening is that most temporary residents effectively stay here indefinitely. Fairness must be restored. Will the minister update our outdated laws and require at least one parent to be a citizen or permanent resident to qualify for automatic citizenship?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member has her facts wrong. This country and this government will not create a two-tier system, and we will never penalize the children for the children in this country that are born here. Thank you.
Honorable député de Longueuil.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the courts have been clear. The first-generation limit to the transmission of citizenship by descent is unconstitutional. We must respond to this and create a fair constitutional citizenship framework. Can the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship tell us how Bill C-3 offers a recourse to those who have been deprived of their citizenship, and how it offers fair access to citizenship for future generations? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. With Bill C-3, we are offering a solution for these lost Canadians. And we will also ensure that children born or adopted abroad can also access citizenship if their Canadian parent, who also was born or adopted abroad, has a substantial link with Canada. That is how we will balance fairness with the immense value of Canadian citizenship. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, Canada's economy is the one that is weakening the quickest in the G7. The Prime Minister promised that he would come out of the meeting with President Trump with a victory. But after concession, softwood lumber workers have lost a great deal. The Prime Minister came back empty-handed, and softwood lumber is not even on his priority list. He promised there would be an agreement to remove all tariffs. But why is he no longer respecting his promises now that he's been elected? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, softwood lumber is indeed an industry that's experiencing a difficult period, and it's not the first time. This industry has often been the target of our American neighbors. And that's why we need to negotiate a comprehensive agreement that will help all Canadians. And as the Prime Minister said, we will not sign just any old agreement. We will sign an agreement that helps all Canadian sectors, including softwood lumber. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled since this Prime Minister came to power. The Canada Forestry Services Association stated that with more than 200,000 direct jobs at stake, our sector is acting the Prime Minister to show the same sense of urgency about softwood lumber as he does about steel and aluminum. Why is the Prime Minister letting down these 200,000 workers and their families? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we are very familiar with the softwood lumber sector. I personally am very familiar with this sector. And we know that this type of situation with our American neighbors has happened over and over. We will be able to negotiate an agreement with them. And that is why we're not going to sign any old agreement. Instead, we will ensure that the agreement we sign will benefit all Canadians and all sectors.
For Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada already has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment. It's only going to get worse in Cambridge auto workers who work at Toyota with jobs and investments fleeing south. Just after the Prime Minister's trip to Washington, the Trump administration says there will be no deal on autos, putting thousands of workers and their families at risk. To add insult to injury, the Prime Minister promised to send $1 trillion to the U.S., spending money on American jobs while Canadians get pink slips. Why is the Prime Minister so quick to invest in America's future while selling out the livelihood of Canadian auto workers?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course Canada's economy is in fact growing, and that is a statistical and objective fact. I very much empathize, not particularly with this honourable member who is reading the points that they sent in from the back room, but I do empathize with the people of Cambridge and the anxiety that is felt throughout the auto sector. It is not obvious that the President of the United States has put on the table tariffs that completely alter that sector and don't necessarily always respect the very good and very hard work that they do. We will defend those people.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday our government introduced Bill C-12 to secure and protect the integrity of Canada's immigration system, reinforce our border, and curb the transnational flow of fentanyl. Can the Minister of Public Safety inform the House why we need to move swiftly to pass Bill C-12?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Bay of Quinte for this very important question and his very hard work. The Strengthening Canada's Immigration System and Borders Act will strengthen our border and keep Canadians safe. It will ensure guns and fentanyl are off our streets, Mr. Speaker, and it will assist law enforcement with the required tools to do their job properly. I want to take this moment, Mr. Speaker, if you will allow me, to thank the frontline RCMP, CBSA, CSC, as well as CSIS staff who work on the front lines each and every day, and I want to wish them a happy Thanksgiving.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, this morning we learned that French only makes up 17% of the Prime Minister's speeches. When I had the honour of being part of the previous Conservative government, all speeches began in French, and today the leader of the official opposition gives French pride of place in his speeches. Mr. Speaker, we're not in England. This is Canada. Does the Prime Minister realize that French is also the language of business, both in Canada and throughout the world? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I have some news from my colleague across the way. We are the government that has done the most to help official languages in Canada. We modernized the Official Languages Act, and we offered $4 billion in investment, that's historic, for official languages throughout the country. For the first time in the history of the country, we reached our targets of Francophone immigration outside Quebec. We're going to ensure that those targets then reach 12%. That's historic. That's what I would like to tell my colleague.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I often hear parties in the House say they support workers. In fact, I've heard a lot about workers today. Yet when I tabled my bill to protect the right to strike and collective bargaining, crickets from the Liberals and Conservatives. So words are one thing, action is another. If the Liberal government really respects workers, will they protect their rights by supporting my bill to remove Section 107 from Canada's Labour Code? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, we have significantly strengthened the rights of organized labor in this country, starting in 2015 when the Liberal government repealed union-busting legislation that was presented and passed by those Conservatives. Another untrustworthy move, Mr. Speaker, strengthening the Canadian Labour Code, making scab labor illegal, and investing in union-based training. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work with labor organizations and businesses to make sure that the relationship remains balanced and productive.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that Donald Trump is erratic and very difficult to deal with. However, the Prime Minister's growing list of concessions and appeasement is clearly not working. The latest sees him offering up the Keystone Pipeline to the Americans and getting nothing in return. This is an uneconomic, environmentally damaging project that directly contradicts his pledge to reduce integration with the U.S. economy. What happened to the Prime Minister who promised Canadians a strong approach to Trump's aggression?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, businesses from all over the world are choosing Canada as a foreign direct investment opportunity. We rank amongst the top 2 countries in the G20 for foreign direct investment. And in fact, contrary to the words on the other side of the aisle, we have inflation coming down. We have the Bank of Canada cutting the benchmark interest rate to 2.5%, Mr. Speaker. We are a free trade agreement with every other G7 country, Mr. Speaker. These are more than just agreements. They are bridges to economic resilience, and we'll keep going hard. Thank you.
And that ends the question period for this Thursday. I believe is it the opposition
you
House
should
leader
do
will be
exercise.
asking the Thursday question. We'll give it a couple of seconds.
You should do exercises. That's important
You
to our
should
good health.
do
And
exercise.
friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rooty toot, kimble, loopy loo. Boppity stoppity, romper room and friends.
All right, gang, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Kirk, appreciate all the support. Everybody that watches here, I do appreciate it. We're back tomorrow morning, a couple hours early. Friday starts early, so keep that in mind. That's it. We'll catch you tomorrow. What was that little French conservative Jacques Gord saying at the end there? Like, that is a bone you French Tories need to sit on and shut your goddamn mouth on. that there's not enough language in Parliament that is spoken in first in French? Shut the up. Oh my God. How obnoxious. Honestly, I'm sending Pierre an email saying, shut that guy down. Don't let him talk again. Shame on you for allowing him to present it, because he wouldn't have snuck that in there. That's what I think about that contribution to question period. The Conservatives lose all of question period despite Carney humiliating himself, not being able to speak out there because the Tories brought up a language barrier between English and French in Canada, October 9th, 2025. It's embarrassing. But again, if you don't hold the opposition to account, how in the hell can you ever hold the federal government to account? That little guy, Jacques Gord, I used to kind of like him, but now he's a freak. He's a mole man. Get the fuck out. Okay, later, gang. Catch you tomorrow, Friday.